Alabama's land-grant university, Auburn University, presents Auburn Profiles. The sound of those who are making news at Auburn. Today's profile on two Olympic hopefuls. For 3 summers, 2 Auburn University students have spent their vacations running, horseback riding, pistol shooting, fencing, and swimming. These 5 competitive events make up the modern Pentathlon competition, which culminates every 4 years at the Olympics. This may sound like summer relaxation to many, but for my guests today, 2 Olympic hopefuls, Don Morley of Florence and Dave Parrish of Auburn, the training and competition is both serious and rewarding. The objective of the training is to seek out and develop men with strong potential for the 5-event modern pentathlon. The 30-day training period each summer has given both Morley and Parrish experience and confidence in their development for future competition. Don Morley explains that training.
Well, it was quite kind of exhausting, I guess you could say, this summer. We get up usually 6 in the morning and start with a run. We'd shower, eat, then we go ride for about 2 hours maybe. And we'd usually swim or fence, I suspect, and we'd eat, have a little rest period, then go fence. And that would usually be, we do about 4 events a day, I'd say. That was usual.
Mm-hmm. Where does all this take place?
This is in Fort Sam Houston, Texas, in San Antonio.
Dave, who sponsors the training at Fort Sam Houston?
Well, if you get right down to it, you would kind of say it was sponsored by the Army, although the funds are set up through the Olympic Committee, which is the United States Olympic Committee, and then is sponsored through the United States Modern Pentathlon Biathlon Association, which is controlled by the International Olympic Committee, which controls all the particular sports, and pentathlon happens to be one particular level of sport that it controls.
What is the modern pentathlon?
Well, in itself, the pentathlon is a basic event which originated out of the Napoleonic War period. It came through as Napoleon required all of his military couriers, or his aides, or you would call secret message men, I would suppose, to be apt in 5 particular categories. He required them to be able to ride efficiently, to shoot, to be a good dueler or a fencer, to swim, and to run cross country if his horse were to falter or fall or be killed in his course of carrying a message from one point to another. And this all developed over a period of years and grew into a sport, and it ended up a military-oriented type thing, and so it's just carried over into the present as a military-sponsored thing, although civilians do compete in the Olympic years.
Don, you went to Sweden to compete in the World Junior Modern Pentathlon Championship. What kind of experience was that?
Well, it was a great experience, I guess you could say. It was the first time I'd ever been overseas.
You represented the United States in the competition there?
That's correct.
How were you selected?
Well, it was kind of luck, I guess you could say. I requested that I could pay my way, I could go. I requested that. At first I was turned down, and then, I wrote a couple of letters, and eventually they allowed me to go. They originally intended not to send a team this year because they felt that we would not be represented well enough to warrant it.
How many participants did they have, representing how many countries?
Well, there were 40 participants and representing approximately 13 countries. I believe that's correct.
So representing the United States, you feel like you had quite a bit of weight on you?
As a matter of fact, yeah, I did. It's quite an honor, and most of the other countries look up to you, being a representative of the United States.
A look at the U.S. Modern Pentathlon with Don Morley and Dave Parrish. This has been Auburn Profiles, a perspective on the people, ideas, and events that make Auburn University an exciting place. Auburn Profiles is produced by the Radio and Television Service of the Office of University Relations. Tomorrow, more on the U.S. Modern Pentathlon with Morley and Parrish. This is Johnny Matthews speaking.
What was it that inspired you to attend Auburn in the first place?
You want the whole gruesome story?
Yeah, I would love to hear it.
I've been thinking about this. I ignored your last card, and I was trying to think about what I would say if I didn't call you. So this is a pretty long one.
Oh, go ahead. I have all the time you need.
I'm not just a 4-year Auburn guy. I'm a lifetime Auburn guy. Started with my father, Leonard D. Parrish, doctor, professor of American history, started at Auburn in 1955 and 56 school years. From there, he left Auburn for 4 years to establish the academic cadre at the U.S. Army Aviation Center and School at Fort Rucker, Alabama. And we returned to Auburn in the fall of 1961. So I began my time at Auburn High School, obviously, at that time. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, my father was killed in something relative to a hunting accident the following year on March the 14th, 1962. Wow. But we remained in Auburn, and I stayed through Auburn High School on the track team, and then obviously started attending Auburn in the summer of 1968. School of Business, obviously, on the Auburn track team with Coach Mel Rosen, our famous Olympic track coach through the 60s, and graduated from Auburn in December 8th of 1972. I remained active with the track team the entire time, and actually Mel Rosen awarded me a walk-on scholarship in 1970, which probably would have helped me get through college, or I probably wouldn't have had enough money to pay for it. But my mother, Lucille Coke Parrish, was a registrar in the Dean's Office of Arts and Sciences at the time. And I'm going to guess at the time, about 73 or 74, whenever the Title IX program came down regarding women's sports and history in the school, Dean Catherine Cater, who was the Dean of Women at the time, offered my mom the head residence job with the first female athletic dormitory. Wow. So it was an interesting time for us. And she was, of course, had residents such as Ruthie Bolton. If you know who she is, you'll see her plaque up on College Street there by Toomer's Corner. So yeah, it was an interesting time. I had great coaches and administrators such as Dr. Ed Bagwell, Dr. Frank Stevens, were the big influencers in my life in the time there. And I, of course, went to school with all their kids at high school. So it was an interesting time for me. I get up there once a year, and the Tigers Unlimited get a lot of money from me every year. So anyway. Awesome. So it's an interesting time. Yes, sir. My mother passed on in 2007, but and none of my relatives are still there. My sister Mary, all my brothers John, James, Bill, and my sister Mary all went to Auburn as well. Wow. And they live all over the planet now. But that's a brief cursory history of my time there. Yes, sir. Yeah. Awesome. I got fourth in the SEC in the triple jump in 1970, and fourth again in the SEC triple jump championship in 1971, and that's what won me the walk-on scholarship from Coach Rosen. Wow. Who was a delightful man and a good mentor of mine, for sure. Of course, I was in the ROTC program at Auburn, and I'm not sure how I got all that done, but I worked for the student recreation department at, checking ID cards and stuff like that at the gym, and I worked for my second cousin, Dr. Tom Cope, who was the director of the soil testing laboratory in the Department of Agriculture there. So our roots go pretty deep there. So. Wow. That is amazing. It definitely does. I know everyone has told me upon graduating that they have felt well prepared. How would you say Auburn has impacted your career, relationships, and life after graduation? Oh, good question. Because my family was there for a good long period of time up until my mother passed in 2007. They were always there, so I was always coming home from time to time to visit. So it's been I call it a life-changing experience. And not just because where Auburn is or what Auburn does. Auburn is not just a place. Mm-hmm. To me, it's a state of mind. And so many of my friends have come and gone through the schools over the years that I don't make many connections with people outside of the school, but we had a pretty strong ROTC department there in the 70s. We had I think 1,500 cadets at the time. Now it's more like 150. But I think I was not highly praised among the graduates, but I think I was out of 105 graduates in my ROTC class, I was 49th. So I was right in the middle. But I was able to go in the Army and tested well. Was able to my primary advisor, Major Tummelson, asked me what I wanted to do one day about my junior year, and I said I'd like to go fly. And he said, let's work on that. He said, just take the ground school for us for aviation. And I took that, and then I found it kind of amazing now that I started my flight training at Auburn in September of 1972. I don't remember the exact date, but I can't remember the exact date. By the 14th of December 1972, I had my private pilot's license. I did it in 6 weeks.
Wow.
Which is kind of hard to do, but I had to because I was going in on January the 9th. I had to go into the Army, and they sent me to flight training and graduated. Went to test pilot school in 1983, and that's I progressed up the ranks to lieutenant colonel, and I retired in 1993. So it's a great place to be.
Amazing. Well, David, in closing and wrapping things up, just to bring everything all together, what does your time at Auburn mean to you?
Well, it means it's a home that will always be there. And if I didn't have to leave, I wouldn't have left. So, yeah. It chokes me up time to time.
Oh, you're fine, David. You're fine. And thank you for sharing.